Great. All right, so now we're going to take a look at the eyedropper tool. And the eyedropper tool is really powerful. Essentially, it samples whatever color you're currently overlapping. So for us, we really only have two colors. We have this black and this brown. However, if we go closer in, if we zoom in over the edges of some of these lines, we'll notice that there is some gradation. So it's not always a perfect, it's not black or brown. There's a couple of shades in between. You can see there's sort of gradated brown here. But what we want to do is we actually want to start thinking more about color. And so with this tool, there's a couple of amazing features that you can do. The first of which is you can actually sample the color from another image. And so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to bring in an image that I created. I have here. It's a Pinterest image. You can see when I look at it full screen, you can see there's a little girl. She's drinking water. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make Photoshop smaller, and by dragging it over, you can see the window gets smaller and you can see this image behind it. So one of the things I found out that's so cool about the eyedropper is you can actually sample images even if they're off the screen. So how do we do that? So first of all, let's click to select a color. Let's move off the edge, and suddenly we see now we're actually off the screen and we're able to sample colors from this image. This is a really fancy little trick that I found out recently. So I'm just going to sample one of these like sort of brownish yellow tones, trying to get a little bit of a lighter yellow here. Something like that. And I'm going to move it back. We can see we have this. It's actually not that different from our brown. And I'm just going to select right here the elliptical marquee. And I'm going to create a new folder because now we have all these assets, which are really great. But what we want to do is we want to create colors. So let's actually go and create a color folder. And I'm just going to now drag, let's just say a circular marquee from the middle, holding Alt and Shift at the same time to constrain this selection. And as I zoom out, you can see it's filling the space. I didn't quite nail it perfectly, but it's pretty darn close. And let's create a new, actually, let's just do Alt backspace. It's going to create it. Oh, nope. It's trying to create it on top. There we go. So we do need to create a new layer. So I thought maybe we'd create a layer like that. But so Alt backspace, you can see there, created a color fill on top of our artwork, which is fine. But what we want to do is we actually want to move this below our artwork. And we can see, since this is set to multiply, it shines through. So we have this nice color. So I'm just going to name this, so brown, let's do 2, because I'm going to make a few more selections here, and I'm just going to actually add on top of that. So what I would like to do now is the color layer. This is going to go in the color folder. Let's move that in, dock it there nice and clean. Good. Let's create another new layer. And I'm going to make now this outer circle, and I'm going to drag it out. Great. All right. So now we have a color. Let's go ahead and do that trick again. And let's pick another color. I'm just going to drag over, and I'm going to pick one of these brown tones. I really like her hair color. So I'm going to pick a sort of a reddish brown. It's very dark, but we'll see. It's kind of a purpley reddish brown. And I can tell already, like, it's way down in there. If I click on the color here, it pops up a slider. It pops up different options for us to change our actual color. So let's drag that up a little bit away from the dark so that we can see what color we're working with. And that looks pretty good. It's kind of this nice neutral sort of auburn almost. And let's hit OK. And what I want to do now is I'm going to fill this space with this color, and watch what happens. It's a beautiful color, but it's going to overlap this brown. So it's on top, so we're not able to see this one. So let's move this one down beneath it. So we get the hierarchy going on. There we go. So we can see now we have these two colors in the brown 1 and brown 2. And I'm going to name this brown 3 because we're going to create another layer and we're going to go right into the center of it. And let's just start here. Let's just make a little one. Good. Perfect. And because we already have these two colors, I like the tone that I'm working with here. But if I were to select more from here, I might start getting a little off track because these are both just variations of the same thing. So instead of selecting it from an image, which is really cool, I'm actually going to adapt this particular color. So I'm going to switch, I hit X on my keyboard to switch colors so that I still have this color saved. I'm going to click here to sample. All right, now you can see it changed this one. I'm going to click on the color palette in the bottom left corner, the color window, and I'm just going to drag this up. I'm going to make it brighter. I'm going to make it closer to the top so it's more vibrant. I'm going to stay within the same range of color though. And I'm going to, again, you can hit Edit Fill or up F5. I like Alt Delete because it's just easier to find on the keyboard. You can see now we got this nice little range here going on. So that's a really useful way to start thinking about how to use the eyedropper is to, you can sample from other colors, you can sample from within your own image, you can sample from photographs that you actually bring into Photoshop to create color palettes. And now let's talk a little bit about color, like color palettes itself. So if we go to Window, click Color, you can see, or this little paint tray here, we get the option of seeing a lot of different colors. And so right now what we have is we have this outer color, we have this inner color, and this third color. So what I actually want to do is I want to start creating swatches. And swatches are basically, it's like a palette, right? So these are actually a whole separate colors that I've created based on projects. So what we want to do is we can even create a folder and just name this group. Let's just name it Test Colors 1 and hit OK. You can see it puts it at the bottom. We can arrange these however we like so we can access them later. Let's just move it like to the top. Great. So now we have this color selected, and whatever color we have currently selected with our eyedropper, when we hit plus, it's going to save this swatch, which is great. And so what we just think of a color that we want to name it. I'm going to name this marmalade yellow. I just like that. I think it looks kind of like marmalade for some reason. Don't need you right now. And then I'm going to click here and sample this color. And what does this color look like? Well, I'm going to create a new swatch and I'm going to call this one mustard yellow. All right, so you can see we're starting to build and populate our swatches, which is really useful. I'm going to click here, select this brown again, click plus, and this is going to be, let's just name this mocha. So now we have 3 colors in our new swatches library. That's fantastic. So let's say we want to start playing around outside of these range of colors. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing we can do is if we go to color, we can see we have this slider on the right. You can also see we have this whole range here. So, we have more saturation down towards black, less saturation up towards white, and left we have the hue. So it's moving towards more of a grayish neutral tone, and right more towards the actual pure color. So we have a lot of different options though. When you click these little arrows, it gives us a whole bunch of different things to work with. We can use a color wheel, which is very useful. Allows us to actually find colors in a different kind of way. And we have this triangle, which is nice. I use that a lot. We also have sliders. So sliders are kind of a little more complex. For RGB, this is useful for people who really know their stuff in terms of print and color design. It's a lot more complex, but let's just keep it simple. Let's start, and then there's obviously other types of sliders. There's quite a lot of sliders, but we're just going to keep it simple, and we're going to use our color wheel. And so let's just say I want a blue color that's the same level of saturation as this brown. How would we do that? Well, we can see we're kind of in the orangish red area, which makes this really nice mocha brown. But if I were to drag this dial all the way over to blue, you can see it's actually changing our color, but it's not changing the saturation point. So that's really handy. So if I move it up, now we have essentially, let's just say like I'm gonna create a blue fill. So I'm gonna make this little crest symbol, like circle here, fill of blue. And I'm gonna make this on a new layer. Color, let's put it here. Alt backspace. You can see it put it behind the artwork because this color layer, because we have the art layer above it that's on multiply. We also have these assets, which are also on multiply, a lot of them. So if I hide that, you can see it's essentially nesting above our color layer, but it's also duplicating so that white that we saw earlier is not showing through to these layers. So I just also want to make sure I'm naming my layers consistently and not forgetting to do that because things can get really crazy really quickly. So this is going to be blue 1. And it looks pretty good. You know, that's nice. That's coming along. Let's just say, for example, I like this so much that I actually want to duplicate this blue and move it over here. How would I do that? Well, one of the ways is to actually grab the move tool, come over to this selection. You can see I'm on the blue layer. I'm on auto select, but even still, if I uncheck auto select, I can hold the alt key and you can see it turns my cursor into a double cursor. And that allows me to drag this layer over, which is really, really nice. And then if I hold shift, it's actually going to constrain this selection drag so that it's going to be aligned to this other image. You can see it's a little off, so I just adjusted it with the arrow keys there. But basically, there we go. There we go. We got blue circles now that are the same exact size on either side of the image. We can do blue 2. And we can start having fun with this, you know. Let's grab another blue color. Let's say, okay, that's a really nice blue. We want to stay within the same range, and feel free to explore other colors, but let's just say we want to stay within the same range of blue, but we want to maybe decrease the saturation point a little bit. Let's make it lighter, but still in the same sort of area. So we see when we drag it up, it also changes these 3 numbers. These 3 numbers are very important for when you're going to print. And again, we're creating a new blue. So let's actually add that to our test colors, and I will add the other one as well. So hit plus, and what is this one? This one kind of looks like, it's beautiful. It almost looks like indigo. And let's save that. And now I'm going to take a little bit of a jump here, and I'm going to select this one, which actually makes it so I lose that blue. So I don't have that blue now queued up in my little color dock. But what I want to do is create a new, and this one's much deeper. So this one's kind of like an azure blue. So name that. But let's say, okay, well, I want to get back to this one. I don't want to, you know, mess around. I want to get back to this lighter blue. This sort of more robin's egg blue. And so we have 2 colors right now. So what I'll do is I'll come over to the color palette, drag it up again, and oh yeah, okay. So now we're gonna put the blue somewhere else. So what I want to do is get creative with this, and I'm actually going to come in here into this, zoom in, come to my layers. Let's go to my art layer. And I'm going to get creative. So I want to fill these outer shapes with this color blue that I have right now. So how would we do that? There's a lot of different ways to do that. One of the ways, the fastest ways, would perhaps be, because it's such a complex shape, use the magic wand. You got it. And so if I click inside, you can see it automatically grabs, it's filling this whole space with a selection. So it's pretty intuitive. It really seems to know what I want. And I'm going to do that all the way around. And then I'm going to come back in here, and I'm going to hit a new layer, and I'm going to fill that with the blue. And if I deselect it, you can see it pretty much did a perfect job of getting that space filled with blue. So that's pretty darn cool. So that's about it for the ways in which we're going to, the basics of colors and using the eyedropper. So next, we're going to talk a little bit about the color theory and also color harmonies.